Greetings everyone, my name is Dr. Jason Freeman. I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. Recently I watched both Dune 2 and the Three-Body Problem, and I realized that both of those properties had something in common. Both the Dune movies and the Three-Body Problem limited series are reboots that improve on the original. While the 1984 Dune film is a classic, there were many things that were improved upon in the 2021 and 2024 films. And for political reasons, the Chinese version of the Three-Body Problem leaves out a key inciting incident that explains why the main human antagonist did what she did.
What's it say?
So this made me wonder, why not reboot something that's near and dear to my heart, which is Ender's Game? There's a 2013 film that was a bit underwhelming that came out that, had it been good, would have led to what I think would have been a really interesting film franchise. Now, I discovered Ender's Game when I was in middle school in the 1990s. I was at a book fair and I saw the cover of this really interesting looking book. So based on this cover alone, I bought it with the money I had, and I fell in love with the book. Reading that first Ender's Game book had a huge influence on me. I became a huge sci-fi fan and bought a bunch of books from the Science Fiction Book Club. Ender's Game is the story of Ender Wiggin. Andrew's recruited to be part of a military school that is training children to lead an international fleet against a group of insectoid aliens. These aliens have attempted to invade the Earth twice, and now they're essentially waiting for a third invasion. And this brings me to the first reason I think we should reboot the Ender's Game film. And that is, it is very relevant to the times we're currently living in. As a result of the first two invasions, Earth is now a militaristic society that's totally geared towards the military-industrial complex as a means of protecting themselves against annihilation. This parallels what we've seen many times after Pearl Harbor, after 9/11, where a free society is willing to give up those freedoms in the name of security. You can even draw parallels to how we dealt with the recent pandemic, where essentially we put these laws, restricted freedoms in for the sake of protecting and saving lives. An Ender's Game film or limited series can kind of show the extremes that can take on the global scale, as well as what can happen when Earth, humans are facing extinction. How far are we really willing to take away and limit freedoms? The book also deals with themes of child soldiers. Now, the child soldiers in Ender's Game are very different than what we see in real-life conflicts in Asia and Africa. However, one commonality is that you have these innocent children whose childhoods are being stolen from them. But just seeing, Western kids as child soldiers may make it more real for people watching this film in the West. Also, when you see people who look like you who are going through a particular situation, it might make you empathetic. And so, if you have these Western, I would say even, mainly white kids who are now child soldiers, you might have a lot of members of the audience for the first time really become empathetic towards these child soldiers in other parts of the world. Now, at this point, you may be thinking, totalitarian, militaristic society, insect invaders, alien invaders. This is very much like another film called Starship Troopers. Now, yes, there are many parallels. In fact, yeah, it would be kind of like the same movie.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
But this brings me to another reason why we should reboot the Ender's Game films. The book deals with the theme of utilizing the internet to manipulate public opinion about a war and a political regime. Peter and Valentine Wiggins are the older siblings of Ender. And so they utilize what's called the nets to do these, fake news simulated arguments to try to sway public opinion about the hegemony, which is the kind of militaristic dictatorship that they're living under. They realize that after the war with the Formix is over, that there's going to be a global war and a new kind of balance of power in the world. And so with this foresight, they take advantage of the situation and start to steer things towards the way that they want the world to go. Now, there are clear parallels with the use of social media by powers like Russia to manipulate American elections. Also, all sides utilize social media to kind of create these realities that their followers are kind of locked into. They say things, they repeat things that might not be true, but that people start to believe it because there's no real counter arguments. And so you can play with this in the Ender's Game film series Reboot and kind of show what would be the extreme version of this in this future time. Now, another reason why I think we should reboot Ender's Game is I think it can really revolutionize how we do space battles within a film setting. Now, one thing notably missing from the DUNE movies and the Three-Body Problem are massive space battles. Now, both those things exist within their books, but they haven't been touched on yet. Now, with Ender's Game, space battles are a key part of the narrative, so you can't really do the film or film series without it. And so when I think about massive, really cool space battles, I think Star Wars, and I think the rebooted Battlestar Galactica series. You could take those, film series and build on that with newer technology, and you could have these really epic space battles between the Formics and the International Fleet. And because we don't really have, because most people aren't familiar with the Formics, you can go a lot of different places with this particular ships, with the particular species, and you can really be imaginative. And so you can do a lot of stuff with these space battles that we haven't even seen before. And so now I'm going to deal with the elephant in the room, the reason why so many people might be opposed to a Ender's Game reboot. And that is the author, Orson Scott Card, and his racist and homophobic views. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about his views here. I'm going to leave a link in the description so that you can actually read an article that lays them out and lays them bare, but I can just give you a spoiler. They're pretty bad. But one thing that makes me very confident about advocating for, making a film series based on a book written by a person who has homophobic and racist views is this concept called death of the author. Now, I'm not talking about unaliving Orson Scott Card. I'm not talking about violence towards anybody, remember. But my point is there is this interesting philosophy put forth by Roland Barthes, who is a philosopher, and he wrote this 1967 essay titled Death of the Author. And so the main point is that the intention that the author originally had for a particular book is not as important as the way the book or any type of literature is interpreted by the audience. For example, I can write a book that is based on my ideas that might be homophobic or racist, which I'm not. But the point is, if my audience reads the book and sees within the subtext a person of color or a queer or both hero, then my intention doesn't really matter. It's what the audience sees and what the audience thinks. And so when I read Ender's Game back in the 1990s, I had no idea about Orson Scott Card's beliefs. I read it from my own, non-homophobic, non-racist viewpoint. And so the way that I thought about Ender, the way I thought about the different children within the battle school, I saw it through that lens. I didn't read any homophobia. I didn't read any racism. If it was there, it totally missed me. And so, any person, any director doing a film series based on this book or the other books in the Ender's Game saga, they're not necessarily going to, go and delve in and try to put any specific homophobic or racist intention behind their work. We've seen this very clearly with Frank Herbert's DUNE, the DUNE 1 and DUNE 2. Frank Herbert created the Baron Harkonnen with these many negative gay stereotypes, a predatory person, and the new DUNE series doesn't do that at all. It essentially moves away from those homophobic tropes and really focuses in on this diverse cast that puts forth affirmation, diversity as a virtue and not necessarily a negative thing. Now, if you found that video interesting and informative, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please share this video. And if there are other sci-fi books or book series you want me to review on this channel, please leave those suggestions in the comment section below. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day.